gosh. Oh my gosh. That was so bad.
I start crouching down. I was like, I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm going home.
People are savage out there.
Now I got an even bigger target on my back.
I would definitely screw over a lot of people.
I was a contestant on the biggest entertainment show in history, and it changed my life in ways that you wouldn't expect. With 2,000 contestants and a $5 million prize, the stakes were insane. From getting accepted to facing the challenges and what happened behind the scenes, you're gonna get the entire story. But let's go all the way back to the beginning, the very first thing. How did I get in? The application process was actually pretty funny. I saw an ad on LinkedIn. I ended up making a video where I wrote a song. I wrote some things that I do really well. I remember my dad was throwing me the materials as I was playing guitar, hitting a pickleball paddle, and my mom was filming the entire time. I got a call 20 minutes later. She was like, I loved your application. We would love to continue to interview you and see if you're a good fit for this process. And then I got an email, I think it was a month and a half to 2 months leading up to the show, that I was gonna be a part of the Beast Games. And throughout this entire video, I'm gonna be bringing on individuals and interviewing them about specific parts of the Beast Games experience, so you can see from different perspectives of other people who were on the games instead of just me. Once we found out, it was around a month to a month and a half before we actually got casted and flew out for the show. I actually flew out of this airport, and I remember it was leading up to a day to a day and a half right before we were supposed to fly out is when they finally sent us all of our flight information. I had no idea. I was so nervous. Did I mess something up? Was it gonna end up coming? I didn't know what was going on. So I finally got all my flight information, and within that same day, I literally was flying out to Vegas, was the very first place. But once we got there is when everything started to get crazy. I think we stayed at the Luxor. On the inside of the Luxor, it was so cool. It was like a pyramid. The hotels didn't look like this one. They were super cool. And on the inside, I remember we got our sizing for our jerseys. We got checked into the hotel. We started meeting people who were gonna be a part of the games as well. It was really cool. It was one of the people that I had met, ended up being super close with. She was the very first person that I met throughout the entire time being at the games. We were on the same flight in together, and we were all wearing black pants and black shirts on the planes. I remember we were in the hotel getting everything prepped and ready for literally 3 days before being bused to the first location. It was also nerve-wracking because going in, we literally didn't know anybody out of this entire competition. We were in Vegas, there was 2,000 people instead of 1,000 people. So there was a ton of people all over. There was a ton of stuff happening. Leading up to the shoot, I remember we all got on shuttles, and then they bused us directly to Allegiant Stadium, where we spent the entire duration of the video for Vegas and for the YouTube video inside of the stadium, and it was absolutely insane. Since we did spend a lot of time in Vegas, we're gonna have to do this next part in front of a casino. We sat down on the second level of Allegiant Stadium, and they gave us food, they gave us water, they literally gave us anything that anybody needed, and then they gave us these uniforms, and we all got pictures. So we got to write our names or our nickname on a whiteboard. Everybody was excited. There was a bunch of adrenaline as soon as we got in the stadium for the first time, because they brought us all together and were like, look, this is it. You're doing the thing, and this is real. This is the first time this is ever gonna happen. They put us in groups by lettering, so it was A, B, C, D, so everybody became really good friends with their letter groups because they thought that that's who they were gonna be sticking with for the entire time. And then as we were going down to the first level for the very first time, people were chanting their team's letter. I was Team C, so they're Team C, Team C. All of us went from the second level down to the first level. All the hype started building, all the adrenaline started building, and what happened next was when we realized that everything was officially real and the Beast Games was just getting started.
I just remember getting to that stadium, and I was the first person up in the front of the line. I was like, whatever this challenge is, I'm gonna be the first person to see it. I'm so ready, I'm so excited, my heart was pounding.
Getting into the arena for the first time was literally nothing I've ever felt in my entire life. There was so much adrenaline, there was so much hype, there was so much build up. It was kind of like this, but it was a much larger scale version because you're in the biggest, nicest, newest NFL stadium, Allegiant Stadium, the Raiders Stadium. As we walked in, they were shooting off smoke. It was kind of a smoky fog type feeling, getting everybody excited, and MrBeast was sitting up on the top with his crew overlooking everything, and there was just a massive $5 million pile of money sitting on the side. And as we walked in, he kind of just like started talking to us. His entire team came out. He came down and was like literally just walking around with everybody saying like, you guys ready? Like, this is gonna be really big, and you guys are a massive, massive part of something that's gonna change potentially a ton of lives, it was super cool. And it was kind of like this, like I'm trying to have you guys imagine it. Think of all four corners. You have people walking out at the same time to like super hype music, and there's just cameras everywhere, literally everywhere. They had, I think it broke some world records for like the most amount of cameras ever. It was unreal.
Yes, when we first walked in, I remember we like go through the tunnel, and it was just like the lights. I just remember seeing like bright lights and just being like, oh, like this is just, as soon as you walk through the tunnel into the arena and just seeing like the magnitude of what you were in, and then seeing the sets they built and that giant curtain, like everything was just running through my head of like, oh my God, dude, I didn't even know what we were gonna do.
It was electric, man. I was hype. I figured we'd come out firing the first couple games, and I mean, we did. It was just electric coming on the field. Everyone's coming from a different tunnel. Seeing everybody just walk out at once, $5 million right in front of us. It was wild. It was a surreal experience. It was probably the best experience I've ever had.
The first challenge was a strength challenge. It was absolutely insane. I remember when we got into the arena, there was a massive curtain hiding behind literally everything. And people were trying to speculate what it was, hours and hours leading up to what the first challenge actually was. And from there, MrBeast said, drop the curtain. And they dropped the curtain, and literally it was 5 massive boulders, kind of like this massive tire. And what we had to do was get in 5 groups of 400 people. But what happened was they brought out a giant rope. I was on the green team. You had your green, yellow, orange, red, and pink teams. And once the challenge itself had started, I remember we had like a 10-second countdown. He was like, you ready? Standing up on the top pillar on the side of the stadium. And as soon as he said, you ready? Everybody's getting ready. We had all of our strategies. Everybody was pulling. We were like, it was game time. It was kind of like that competitive nature that you have where you kind of just like lock in. You're like, I have to get this done. I have to do this. And you know that like whatever happens is like you're putting your best foot forward, you're putting in your best effort. That's exactly what we were doing. Everybody's like yelling to each other, getting ready, like you're like coming out of a huddle of a football game, and you're looking like we were in the middle lane. I'm looking on the other side of me. There's orange team, pink team, yellow team, red team, and we're going, and literally the challenge starts, and within like 15 seconds, our boulder was up and our light was already going off. The first challenge, it was like when everything set in. And I talked to somebody about this specifically, and I think you guys want to hear from them. He was actually part of the games.
I think I was talking to like Sifu, and he was like, I think it's gonna be having to do something like pulling a rope or something and like lifting something. And I was like, I don't know. That sounds pretty like, there's no way you just guess that. And the next thing you know, they drop the curtains and like says like 10,000 pound boulders. I was like, oh. No idea like how hard it was gonna be. Like, can't even like put, because thinking about like lifting 10,000 pounds, you're like, is this going to be hard with this many people? Like, you had no idea.
But the second we saw the boulders, it was pretty clear we were doing a physical challenge. So I was like, where are all the strong people? Where can I go to find the biggest group right now? And I started standing up tall and puffing out my chest to make myself look bigger so I'd be accepted by the group of big people.
It was sick. I think I was on green team. I can't really remember too well right now. But it was cool. We ended up grabbing the jerseys as fast as possible, and everyone kind of knew they wanted to be on the same team as the people they were waiting with the entire day.
After the first challenge was over, there was a ton of time between the 400 people that they had to eliminate from the game all the way into the point where we actually started getting ready for the next challenge and the first night of sleep. We kind of filmed everything at like 4 a.m. or like 2 a.m. in the morning because Allegiant Stadium has an open skyline, and they wanted to keep a consistent time frame of like shooting. Like you didn't want to have one challenge during the day, one challenge during the night. They wanted everything to be consistent. So it was super cool. After that, like they had his MrBeast, like people come in and they walked all of them out as literally they're like walking by all of us. People were waving, people started crying because like at this point it's been 4 days that we've been in Vegas already. And then after that game was over, everybody kind of like, we got sleeping bags, we got a bunch of food, like they made sure everybody was good. And then after that, it was night 1. We slept on the floor of the stadium. They brought in this like olive type turf for us to sleep on, and it was super cool. And it was like, it was nice to know that like we had made it through the first challenge, right? You're there, the nerves set in, you're like, okay, what am I gonna do? How's this gonna be? Once the first challenge is over, it finally sets in, like, you're like, okay, I'm in a MrBeast video, I'm in the Beast Games, this is real. and this just happened. I'm already through. The time it took us to go from game 1 to game 2 took almost a whole nother 24 hours because I said they wanted a consistent time to be able to shoot. So throughout the day, people were like running and doing like lifting and just a bunch of activities in like the middle of the Raider Stadium on the field. It was so cool. And I remember it took until that night, MrBeast kind of was like, all right, everybody ready. And it's like you're kind of like in this lax mode, and it's kind of like your adrenaline kicks back in where it's like, okay, it's go time again. Challenge 2 got way more intense because they had told us that we were going to be competing against our own team members, so the stakes got a lot higher and friendships turned to hardships very fast. It took them around 2 hours to bring all the cases out and set everything up, and throughout that entire period we were talking with each other trying to figure out what the game was going to be. And when MrBeast finally set it and set everything up, he was in the middle on this giant platform explaining everything. And the behind the scenes stuff with this one that they don't tell you is there was 4 groups now that had to go, and we were the 3rd out of 4 groups. So they had 2 groups go, each group took around 2 hours, so it was like group 1 2 hours, hour break, group 2 2 hours. So this was 5 hours of us just sitting there watching other groups go, seeing people getting eliminated. And right before we were supposed to go, we took a lunch break at like 2:30 in the morning, or they go to the lunch break at 2:30 in the morning, and we were like, no way. We all sat there and just waited. I remember I didn't even eat that lunch. It was my decision that I didn't want to eat because I wanted to prep for this. And we like got back down and we got set up in front of the briefcases. And I remember I was next to this girl that I had spent a ton of time at the games with. She was super cool. She was awesome. And actually, let's talk to her more about how that process went.
And everybody's saying what briefcase they're gonna go to, and me and this guy wanted the same one. So ran towards it, and he basically just hurdled and crashed over everything, lunged for it, and I was like, okay, it's my time. I just like went to another briefcase, not confident at all, and it was red.
But yeah, it was unbelievable seeing these like green buttons, this red button, like looking up at the screen and seeing it flash for a quick second and knowing what yours was going to be. And the craziest part is somebody right next to me, she got a red button and this guy behind her got a green button, which meant that he was moving on and she wasn't. He literally switched with her, knowing that he was about to get out just because he wanted to see her succeed. But I wanted to talk about the second challenge, the briefcase one. So yeah. I just wanted to get your overall thoughts on the challenge, like how it went. Were you surprised? Was it what you were expecting?
Yeah, so for that challenge, I thought it was going to be completely different. When they told us briefcases, what I was thinking in my head is that he was going to do one of his challenges like he's done previously, where it's 1 briefcase, 2 people. You have to try and convince the other person that like there's either money in it or there's not money in it. You kind of have to like lie your way through it, and then one person gets through and the other one doesn't. That's what I thought it was going to be. I did not think it was going to be like what it was.
The third challenge was my favorite challenge throughout anything we had shot during the entire time at the Beast Games. The reason I'm here is because they had us all line up behind this line. Everybody was like very confused. It took us like 45 minutes to get everybody behind the line, and then they started bringing people out with flags in their hand. And what that meant was X amount of people can run for X amount of flags. You don't know how many people are gonna go, but you see how many flags are available. So the very first time there were only like 10 flags. So the most athletic people ran first to go get these flags, and that's how you got your beast number. And my beast number was 329. And you'll talk to some of the other people who will tell you more about their beast number as well, up until 1,000. So it was a really, really cool experience. As we're going through this process, you're like, I remember I was on the sideline, I was talking to people, I was like, okay, you're going for flag 444. You're going for flag 560. And you're like planning with people and like scheduling who's gonna go after what and who's gonna get this. And then finally, once that horn sounds, you go.
It is seriously laser focused because everyone on the line is calling out like, I got number 21, I got number 77, like what they're yelling all these things out. And so you kind of are looking to see, oh, okay, I'm faster than that girl that called out number 21, you know, like I could beat her. And so like whenever you hear that, it's like, okay, I'm gonna get to the line and like try and go. Like, and it nothing against anyone, it's just like every man for themselves, you know?
If you get on the line of the field, you're like, I'm gonna run. There's people who are just like, I'm not gonna go against you.
So many people left. There's just so many people and half the flags.
Yeah. Mine was pretty organized though. Like the people, like when I went up there to the front, we kind of all were like, all right, what are you getting? Where are you going? And we had like 10 people kind of all in a row, and we all collectively knew like, I'm going for that deep flag. Like I went for like one of the far ones because I was quicker than some of the other people near me. Some people went to the really close ones. Like there was like I think a girl was like right next to me, and we were kind of like, okay, like we'll leave like this like one that's like 5 feet away, like for you.
In Vegas, everybody was pretty like nice to each other, and everyone was kind of like trying to make friends, trying to make alliances. And then when it came to the flag challenge, you just saw like, bro, you saw the personality and like the desperation come out in people when you were like, because I was trying to help people. There were a lot of girls and people around me who were like, I want this flag. And I was like, all right, I'll wait another round. Like you can get that one. And then I remember I went up to the front of the line and I was like, all right, this is my flag. And I call it out. Girl next to me is like, no, I want that one. I want that one. Please, please, please. And I was like, all right, fine. Like I was being nice. I let her have it. The girl behind me gets at me and she's like, why'd you go to the front if you're not going to get a flag? Like, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. You're already athletic and you're over here. Like she was just like yelling at me. I'm like, bro. I stopped and like went to the side and I was like, go ahead of me then. Either you can race her for it or like shut up. And just like the amount of people were just like so angry the entire time. That's the moment where I realized like, okay, like the 5 million kind of like became real of just like everybody's in it for themselves and like the facade they're putting on of like trying to act like it's like a team thing and help each other. Oh.
People were yelling beforehand, like freaking out, like, oh, you're going for this one. Which one should I get? I don't know which flag's mine. Are you sure you're gonna get this one? And then you had people who said they were gonna go for one flag and then grabbed a completely different flag. And then people were already getting emotional and angry about how that process happened. It was so cool. I think it was the coolest design challenge out of all of them so far. And then for challenge 4, I remember it took forever. They gave us a ton of food, almost like a buffet of food, celebrating that we'd made it to the last challenge before we went to the next phase of the shoot. We sat for like 6 hours as they were like dismantling everything. They brought in cranes. They started shifting around. They had 16 porta potties around the outside and they brought them into the front of this $5 million pile of money. And we're just sitting in the stadium seats, eating this like buffet style amount of food that they had given us, getting ready for this final challenge. They put, I think it was 12 platforms together, or no, it was 11 platforms together because 100 people had to get out. And they put 100 people on each of these 11 platforms, which is 1,100 people. And they needed to get it down to 1,000 people. So the reason I'm up here is think about these platforms that all have 2 bathrooms inside of them and they're about 4 feet off of the ground. And I remember MrBeast was like, okay, whoever gets off, that entire platform is completely eliminated. And when it came down to it, there was a $10,000 bribe, a $50,000 bribe, and then $1 million bribe. And the person who took the $50,000 bribe, I remember the immediate reactions from everybody. It was shock, it was anger, it was like disgust, because like they spent so much of time. It took us like an hour and a half to pick our teams of everybody saying, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not quitting, I want to be on the show. And then you have one person from each of these teams that could have said, you know what, never mind, I don't really care, I'm going to jump off anyway and make myself some money in the process. So when she jumped off, I just remember the immediate reaction. I was so tired. I was sitting down on my platform next to like these other 99 people that I had met and become really close with now throughout that process. And the people literally right next were like screaming and crying. And then like you had people on our platform looking over, like shaking your fist up, like, yeah, we made it. It was unreal. Directly after that, like I remember MrBeast was going over, he was talking to people, he was consoling people, and he was telling people congratulations because we were in the next round.
We get on our platform and I remember it was people walking by and they're like, some girl was talking about something that made no sense. And I just like spazzed out. And I was just like, everyone needs to shut up. Everyone's talking like they know everything. Like I was so tired and just delusional at that point that like, if anybody just like looked at me wrong, I was so mad. And I had no faith in anybody. That was the thing. It was like we were 100 people on a platform and I didn't trust it. Like I don't know half the people. So when the camera people were coming around, they're like, do you trust the people? Like, are you confident? And I was like, honestly, no, not really. Like, I don't know.
We all had a feeling what this challenge was going to be, and it was a eliminate your team and you win type of deal. And I told you guys, I want to get out of the line with you guys. I want to get out of the line with you guys because I will take the money and run. Like hands down, if we get offered $1 million, I'm out of here. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And you guys were like, no, stay with us. So I stayed with you guys. And then it was what we thought it was. And there was $1 million on the line. And I was like, if it comes down to it, I would definitely screw over a lot of people, but not you guys. And I knew that I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like I just when you make these relationships, we're like stuck on this island together of
I was ready to stand on those platforms for hours, Jake. Like I want to stand on those platforms for like 24 hours. Like, I was preparing myself mentally, physically, and everything. But the fact that we only stood on there for what, an hour less?
Yeah, not even.
Yeah, not even. I was a little disappointed, but it's okay. I'm glad that we got it over with. I was obviously excited that it wasn't us, but I was nervous that it could have been us because there were a couple people on our platform that I think all of us knew. We were like, if we don't keep this one person occupied, they might jump off.
I thought it was going to be a lot longer than it was. So I think the actual amount of time that we were up there definitely helped my reaction.
And the craziest part about everything is how long that we were standing and how long that we were moving around and like just doing different activities. Throughout that process, I wish I had something to be able to recover effectively and more efficiently. Something like this Lectropod right here with this tape, it would have been absolutely insane if I could have worn a piece of this tape, kind of like how I have on my leg here, and throughout the show been able to just use the device. Like literally, all I would have been able to do was just put the tape on, snap in the pod, and then be able to recover the entire time as our legs were getting more and more increasingly tired throughout the entire duration of the show.
I think through the whole thing, I was holding so much tension in my body that I knew I was going to break down immediately after I left. So we were like walking around, leaving the arena, and first of all, everybody had lost their voice, which was hilarious. We had nonstop talk for 4 days. And then as soon as I got back to my hotel room, I just like collapsed on my bed for, I think, 16 hours. And
right after knowing that we got into the next phase was the most exhilarating part of the entire journey. I remember that right after everybody got off of their platforms and MrBeast was like, everybody come to the stage, throw the money up in the air. So we all went over this $5 million massive pile of real money. That's what the craziest part was, is this was literally all real money. And they had thousands of cameras, so like nobody could steal anything anyway, even if they wanted to. And people were just like throwing money in the air, freaking out, doing snow angels, and like crying, hugging each other. I was like running around finding all my friends that I'd made now throughout this entire like 4, 5, 6 day process after going through all of these challenges. And it was like, it was hard to explain unless you were there. And obviously you guys have seen the show now after and moved over to this video, but like, it was super, super cool. And it was cool too, because like everybody was just, it was like something that you all accomplished together, right? Like it was hard to explain how that feeling felt. It's similar to like if you won a state championship or you got 100% on every single test you ever took. Like there was just nothing that you could have explained that felt like it. And then I remember once we left through the back door of the arena, so we didn't leave where we came in. We went back through their control room, out this hallway, and they cut off our wristbands, because we all had wristbands that would help them know who was in and out of the games. And then we walked out. I didn't know if it was day or night. I didn't know what time it was. We didn't have our phones at this point. So like we're walking out, it kind of felt like the last episode of The Hangover or whatever, when they're coming out and you're like so tired. We're running on like 36 hours awake at this point. We had plenty of food in our system, but I just remember leaving and going back to the hotel and falling right asleep for like 12 hours.
I think I honestly got hit by it twice. Like as soon as the person next to us on the platform stepped off, I was like, oh my gosh, we made it. And then like getting home, like getting back to Texas and like seeing family and stuff, I was kind of like, wait, like did that just happen? Like it was such a fever dream.
Dude, I mean, yeah, we were up at that point for like probably close to 30 hours. I don't even remember it. Honestly, it was all a blur. I remember it being a big sense of like relief, like, oh my gosh, we did it. It was probably honestly one of the craziest moments of my life. MrBeast comes out. There's just $5 million cash there, and he tells everyone to like grab it and throw it in the air. And I just remember like sitting there, there's money raining on me. We've been locked in a stadium for close to 3 days. And I'm like, what is my life, dude? Like it was, dude, just crazy. It was definitely like a fever dream moment.
And it was such a nerve-wracking amount of time between when we were in Vegas to when we went to the next phase and the actual start of the show itself. It was almost like a month to a month and a half between. And we had no idea when we were gonna get our flight information, where we were going, what we were gonna be doing. It was just so in the dark until like 2 days beforehand. Everybody got their flight information at almost the exact same time. We knew that we were gonna be going to Canada, and we knew that the Beast Games was gonna be starting up once again.
So I had to like keep trying to work out there and then fly back. And it was just never-ending exhaustion, I guess. And I couldn't work the whole time because we only had like 3 weeks or something. Yeah, I'm a really good swimmer now. I was training, shockingly enough, I was training sprints before Vegas, and that was like the best decision and just a lucky coincidence because I had never done sprints before in my life, and I was doing them like bi-weekly just to like get back into shape.
But what's crazy is we didn't fly directly to Ontario. We flew to Buffalo, New York, upstate New York, and we drove directly to these 2 hotels, and we spent some time there beforehand, and everybody was kind of getting back into the groove of everything and like understanding that, wow, there was an entire month to 2 months that had passed that we weren't doing this, and now all of a sudden we're back on the Beast games again.
Yeah, once I saw those tickets, like we're heading out to Buffalo, I mean, we're headed to the next location and stuff. I don't know. Just that's when I was like, wow, we're really about to be on the show. We're really about to, like, things are about to begin. I mean, I was just really looking forward to the future of it all. And I just didn't know what to expect, but I knew it was going to be really, really just crazy.
And I remember a group of us sat in the hotel lobby. Like, I think we were there 2 days before they bust us out. We were just trying to prep for everything that was about to come. And they ended up putting us all into a bus straight to Canada. It was like a 3-hour bus ride, and we spent so much time at the Canadian border because there was literally so many people that were on these buses going into Canada. So making sure that we had all of our passports, all of our luggage, everybody was all taken care of and ready to go. It was such a difficult process all the way up getting into our hotels into Canada for the very first time.
Oh yeah, no, I thought it was hilarious when we thought we were just gonna fly in originally. That's kind of what I thought. There was a bunch of stuff, and then it took forever, and then each bus that went through, I mean, took like 2-3 hours to go through. So I mean, that was a full day event right there.
And then from there we stayed at the hotel for around a day or 2, and then they had bussed us out again in these super nice coach buses, gave us a ton of food, made sure that everybody was okay at all times, bussed us directly to the shoot. And from there, that's where everything seemed completely different from anything I've ever seen.
It was almost like a dream come true because I've always watched TV and been like, man, this would be so cool to be on. And just see what it looks like to film these crazy big productions was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, obviously the platforms in Toronto were very professional. Yeah, it's like very well built. As compared to Vegas, we were all kind of in just a field, so it's kind of hard to compare. But yeah, when I first saw the platforms, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? Again, million things running through your head. What's going to happen? You see that these things are able to drop right away, so there's like a little hole in each platforms.
And this shoot, from the time that we were in Vegas to where we were in Ontario, was so much different. It was actually unbelievable. I felt like I was on a movie set. When they brought all of the buses in, every person had their own individual mic. And from there, we spent almost 2 hours in line going from the miking process, making sure we had food and water, and then slowly moving into the arena to see the platforms for the very first time. And we thought it was gonna be a short time frame from when we got in to when we actually started, but it took around 5 hours to get everything set up before the first challenge, which was the craziest start to any entertainment show I've seen in history.
Getting to the platforms was super surreal. Getting in there, getting on my platform, getting hooked up, and meeting brand new faces was thrilling.
For one, getting to a set that was already complete and ready for us to go was sick. Like in Vegas, we were just sitting in the bleachers like for like hours watching them take cranes and like pick this up, move it over here.
And I was under the impression that when the first challenge started that we'd be doing something with the platforms, but MrBeast came out, he was standing on a massive $5 million pile of money in the middle of the platforms again, and he had said, every entertainment show in history has a grand prize usually of anywhere between $0 to $1 million, and we're gonna give that out in the first 10 minutes. And everybody lost their minds. All of his people brought out bags of money and were dumping them on the table. And then, obviously you guys watch the show and you know about how the challenge goes. But what was crazy is leading up to the very last like 15 seconds, there was only like 20 people that had pressed the button. So it was $79,000 that were split between these 20 and 19 people. And then people started getting FOMO, started freaking out. And then in the last like 2 seconds, the entire screen ended. And then it showed the update that it was like 79 people split just under $20,000 each. And then people started realizing like, oh man, did I just miss a massive opportunity? Did I just screw myself over by pressing this button? There was a ton of different mixed emotions, and I still do not regret my decision at all, and I'm glad I got to see the next challenge.
Was there any part of you that when that timer started that you were thinking of pushing the button, or were you like, I'm locked in, I'm staying in no matter what?
Not for a second. I knew the entire time I was in it to win it. I would have regretted it. Even if I walked away with $20,000, which I would have regretted it for the rest of my life, knowing that there's a possibility I could have gone farther and done something even crazier.
No, absolutely not. There's so many people. I knew people were going to press the button for $1 million. Like, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I wasn't walking out there with $1 million. It wasn't just going to be me. I have 1,000 people pressing a button. And I almost did when I saw the last 10 seconds that there was only like each person that had pressed it at that point was getting $300,000 each. And I was like, oh, and then there was this kid that was behind me. Yeah, he was 418. Yeah, because the girl in front of me was 416. He was 418. And he was like, Sammy, do not push it. Like, so many people are going to push it right before the time goes out. And I was like, you think so? And he was like, absolutely, do not push that button.
No, I was so hyped that's what it was, because I was like, there's no way I'm leaving. Because it was just a full sacrifice challenge. It was like, okay, I got past this challenge. Like, even if it was, I mean, if it was some way I was the only one that was taking $1 million, then yeah, I would have done it. But even 50,000, 100,000, no, I wouldn't have done it.
Now, we were on platforms that had around a 5-foot drop if we had gotten eliminated. And there were 12 rows of 84 people, kind of how this entire parking lot of cars is set up. There was people everywhere on their own individual platform. And how the challenge worked, they had told us it took 2 hours to explain all the directions, get everybody ready to go. And once it was ready to go, they said, okay, you guys are going to have to self-eliminate to get your team to move on. He explained it a couple of times to everybody to make sure they understood everything. And then what happened is they thought that the game was going to last a long time because they had run it before with some pilot testers, but they didn't account for the fact that there was people who were competing for $5 million. So the challenge only lasted 15 seconds, and literally people started pressing buttons, people started screaming, people started getting wild inside of this massive airport hangar type thing that we were in. And like I had said from the flag game, we were in one of the more athletic groups of people who were super competitive and were not going to self-eliminate to move people on. So as we were seeing this green wave of lights come across, we knew that it was getting lower and lower and it was dwindling, and it came down to it. My group had got eliminated in that very first challenge. And it was super cool because he was like, okay, now we're gonna drop. But first they dropped every single person that self-eliminated, had them do their little cameo, and then it was like a wave. I remember, if you look down here, think of if these cars just dropped one by one into the ground, and I was in the very back, so I saw all of these people in front of me drop, boom, and that was the last thing I saw. I went into this black little box, and then it had an entire hydraulic system underneath. And it was super padded, super comfy. There was no problems with that either. But it was just a very sad experience doing all this, just knowing within 15 seconds it was over.
My cortisol levels have never been higher in my life. That was the most scary 10 seconds of my entire life. I had no idea what was going to happen.
So as soon as the challenge was eliminate yourself to save your row, I was like, rows 1, 2, 3, 4, no one's going to do that. And it just started dropping so fast, eliminate. I was like, and I was going down with the ship. I wasn't gonna sacrifice myself, so I can't really blame anybody else because I wasn't going anywhere.
It was really hard. It was really hard, especially because you guys were literally on the platforms right next to me, so I watched all of you guys drop. So that was really hard, but selfishly, I made it to the second round. So, no hate, but I was glad that I made it through.
I mean, that feeling was, I couldn't believe that someone would do that for that many. I was like, wow. Because again, the line was so long, and I hope you're able to see that on the video, just how many people and so I knew the people right around me, they weren't self-sacrificing, and it's just well, hopefully somebody does before the rest of these lines do, And then whenever I saw your line go red, I was like, oh, because you feel so bad. You're like, man, you didn't end it on something that you could control. I mean, I guess you could have self-sacrificed, but you still want to be in the game, and I totally get that. I wanted to be in the game. So it's so hard to describe that feeling of excitement for myself, but sadness for someone else that even though we had only just met, it's that connection that you form through the experiences that you went through that you're just like, oh, my friend is gone. Like, oh man.
Well, so I was extremely disappointed solely because only 2 people from our like 13-person group actually made it. And that was because of our numbers that we chose. We all were hyper athletic, like really gun-ho to win, like very, very type A personalities. And so we all ran really early on in the previous game.
I just remember so many people kept sitting down or laying down because everybody's legs kept getting tired and sore. So again, like having something that contestants could have continuously had the opportunity to recover, like this lecture pod right here, it would have been so nice because the entire process, it's like you wouldn't have even had to think about it. And then after the show, after we were eliminated, we kind of waited in this underground area for a really long time. All of us were super sad.
Right after I found out I was out of the games, I was just kind of like thinking back over the whole experience in general and just still kind of like blown away by, like, I was like proud of myself. And then it's also crazy because you're in this world, and when you're in like Beast games, like nothing in the outside world really matters at that point. But then when you get to the real world, nothing mattered inside of the game. Yeah. And it was weird trying to wrap my head around reality because it felt like my world had just revolved around MrBeast for so long.
Everybody was like, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe I just got out. There were 250 of us all got bused to the same hotel, and they gave us this really cool steak dinner, and we all went out in downtown Toronto. So it was a lot of fun, even after we had gotten eliminated. But it was like a very surreal feeling, almost like you were waking up from a fever dream, where it was like, okay, I'm back to reality now. This whole experience is over. Worst part was like we slept in a sleeping bag, but I mean, it was like camping with like 1,000 other people that you just met, and it was so much fun, and we got to sleep in an NFL stadium. It was like the best experience ever, and I was super grateful, but I was super sad that I didn't win. But that's what they have season 2 for. I'm speaking for everybody who was a contestant on the Beast Games. Thank you to MrBeast, the team, and Amazon Prime for setting all that up, because it was an absolutely incredible experience. And I just want to take one quick second to talk a little bit more about why I was there in the first place. So we submitted videos about why we wanted to be on the Beast Games, and for me, it was because of my mom. She has been suffering from arthritis. I mentioned this a little bit more earlier in the video, and she had to take opioids and pain medicine just to be able to walk straight. And I wanted to create something non-invasive for her that she didn't have to get pain medicine every single day, injections, all that stuff, and be able to live that happy and healthy life that she deserves, and millions of other people across the globe deserve as well.
I remember just being so like fascinated with the whole experience. Like, it's just such a big scale that we did, like the whole production and everything, and just from going to like costumes to like them having like hotel rooms for us. Like I'm not an actor, I'm not in like entertainment at all, so I've never experienced anything like that. And then going into the stadium and just having this moment where it's like he like has this whole stadium for us, and every single person here is here for his video. It's like, it's just so insane. And then seeing the money for the first time, like the cash, like sitting on stage in Vegas, I was like, this is real. I was like, we're all fighting for that. And it was just so mind-boggling. And it still is when I think about it.
For all of you guys who have the opportunity in season 2 to be on the show, because there will be a season 2, this show is going to be incredible. Maybe I'll see you there, and may the odds be ever in your favor.